What is the real future of Apex Legends? The Battle Royale from EA and Respawn has turned heads across the world, made fans of gamers who didn't even like the Battle Royale genre, and looked to be the only game that actually had the quality and the player base to topple or at least contend with Fortnite. But with the reluctance of patches and the lack of communication, players and content creators have gotten a little worried. And of course, when that happens, people start complaining and they start speculating in a negative fashion. That is the internet, but we've finally gotten some information from the devs. This was a long time coming, and I was actually away doing an event for Respawn and Apex Legends with Red Bull Records. I was excited to do that, maybe talk about it in some other videos, but today I want to talk about some of the lies I've heard people spreading about this and literally talk to you about what has been said, because people are spreading some misinformation right now saying that the game is dead, they're putting stuff on Star Wars. This was all speculation. We've got the answers onto what they're actually doing, and we know that it is not those things, and I'm looking very positively towards the future of this. So we're going to bring up all those points. We're going to talk about the real future, if it is a bright one, and I do believe it is, and I'll tell you why based on all of the things they're addressing and what you can expect in June. That should be a huge boost back to the game's population. All right, let's get into it, guys. The first thing to know is that I did do a video called The Future of Apex Legends before. This was a video you should maybe look at, reference. It's talking about my 5 top favorite things that I think that this game should do. A lot of it will be addressed today, but one of the bigger things I said was communication. We'll get into that. It feels like the devs of Apex Legends have had a hard time communicating with their audience, really wanting to be curated. That's the best way I'll do it. They want it to be perfect, everything in alignment and all the words right so that it can't be taken out of context. And I mean, with the Star Wars Battlefront 2 situation on Reddit, I'm sure EA and the whole team at EA is saying, make sure your Reddit posts are appropriate in the exact way that you want them to be, right? We don't want another thing like that. The biggest thing to note that I want to stop immediately is that they are not taking people away from EA, Respawn, to work on Apex Legends and putting them on Respawn's new game, Star Wars. They are 2 separate games in the studio, and in fact, in this blog post that we got 5 days ago from Drew McCoy, the executive producer of Apex Legends, he actually said this exact statement. He said, as far as other games in development at Respawn, it is important to understand they are entirely separate development teams working on Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Additionally, in order to fully support Apex Legends, they're even pushing out plans for future Titanfall games, and no resources from the Apex Legends team are being shifted to other titles in development here at the studio. And they're not pulling resources from the team working on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. They're separate. They are not pulling on each other. They are separate design teams that are going to be doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. And this is important because I saw recent videos that were actually talking about this topic and the future of Apex that were saying something different, like, oh, maybe this is the only thing I can think of that Star Wars are actually, they're taking that. And that was one of the initial things I thought of. We didn't know. They had never made a comment, but they made this comment 5 days ago. So any video that's telling you differently now is just maybe not researched enough, maybe didn't read the blog post, but that is false. I want to make sure everyone knows that Apex Legends has clearly got its own dev team working on their priority. And why haven't they been updating? Well, the real reason they've talked about it, and Vince Zampella has talked about this in 2 different ways. One, I'm sure you guys heard the story of Fortnite, where they have Epic Games using 80 to 100 hour weeks for their employees to get the content production they need to keep updating Fortnite on a weekly basis. It's become the standard. It's become what we expect because it's the biggest game in the world, but it is not sustainable. That level of content that quickly does result in people not having a very smart work-life balance, and it can be physically and mentally dangerous for people to maintain. What Vince Zampella said is that we have a very strong focus on what we want to do for our team. We never intended to update that frequently, and we don't intend to now. So anyone thinking that we will match Fortnite's model at some point, that's not what they're going to do. When they got the initial success of Apex Legends, they basically had that choice. They said, okay, we got a big hit here. What do we want to do? And his choice and the team's choice over at Respawn was to value their employees. Not that Epic doesn't, but to say that we really value quality of life and better products over a long term versus getting as much out as soon as possible and killing our employees, really hurting our sustainability, because they are a relatively smaller studio, especially compared to the team working at Epic Games on Fortnite. So this is really important. They've delayed Titanfall 3. What this tells me in this post from the Apex Legends is that they have clearly said this is a game we want to support for the long haul. We're going to delay one of our other huge franchises at Respawn that people love. We're also not going to take any resources from one of the biggest titles and one of the biggest franchises in the world that we're working on in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And we're going to keep the team and we're going to maintain this game in the long haul. So if you think this game is dying, that just doesn't make much sense as far as what the developers are trying to say to you. And if you have thought that, hopefully this gives you some positive feedback saying that, wow, okay, great, the game I love is still getting a lot of support. I know a lot of people have also been looking at Twitch views, and Twitch views do give you an idea of the hotness of a game, what people are playing, what the content creators know people want to watch. That is, you know, that's true, but it doesn't mean a game is dying if it declines in Twitch views. Everything at a certain point, at some point in its life cycle, declines in Twitch views. Many games have had downs and ups. I mean, you look at Warframe, for example, it's had peaks, it's had valleys, it's had huge peaks, and it reached its biggest peak ever 3 years after the game was launched and is only growing in kind of this level of, oh man, you should play Warframe. Videos are still coming out about should you play Warframe this year, and the answer is overwhelmingly yes. So Apex Legends is not on any clock that anyone knows for sure. That's all hindsight 2020. Just because it's declining now just means there's probably some more hot new games and people are waiting for more content. Now, to be into the video of the actual thing that we're addressing here, which is the future, what do they plan for the content? We talked about they don't want to overkill their employees and they don't want to value just insane amounts of cosmetics. What they're looking to do is create long-term sustainability, and they mentioned this quite a bit in their blog post. One of the things I want to read is that they say we are 100% committed to the long-term growth of Apex Legends and supporting the millions playing every day. So today we want to reset our commitment to you and give you some insight into what we are as a development team and how we're approaching a live service for Apex Legends. I think this is a very important quote because when they say reset our commitment, this means that maybe you're in a relationship and you guys are together, and then maybe, you know, you go on a break. Maybe you just feel like you've lost that kind of specialness about it, but you're about to go into another phase of life where you got to really re-up. You got to say, we're in this for the long haul, or hey, maybe we're veering apart. It's almost like Apex Legends had the choice. They were saying, are we going to put everyone on Star Wars? Are we going to do this? And they say, nope, we are going to re-up our commitment. We know you love this game. We love this game. We're going to make it happen. I think that should be a statement that gives people ease in their minds in general. But let's read about a little bit more what they're going to focus on. One of the bigger things that they're talking about is saying getting a huge player base in very short periods means that exploits, bugs, and cheaters and more come fast and frequently, and they've had to react a lot of resources and direct them to play whack-a-mole. This is very common. I've been around Hi-Res Studios for 3 years. I've worked at that video game company as a broadcaster, but also seeing the design side, playtesting, and shipping games. And one of the biggest things that you notice, it's simply that there are things that come out once you launch a character or a mode or a map that you could never find with a team that's able to playtest. You just don't have that population of players. For Paladins and Smite, maybe it's the hundreds of thousands per day to millions. Maybe for Apex Legends, it's the multiples of millions that are playing every day. They're going to find things that your team could not find and also get their work done. That's just the way it is. It's just a matter of numbers, not to anybody's fault as far as their quality. So these things come up, and it's something that we should all understand as gamers, that we're going to find bugs and exploits. I don't see a game that's ever not happened, and it's not the team's fault for that, and they're working on fixing it. One of the big things they want to work on is the slow server performance at the beginning of a match. This is a big one. We all know when we load in and we get that moonwalk, that feeling like, you know, we're on the move, we low gravity, we can't move. Sometimes it's fun because you got a shotgun and you're just, you know, lining up those EVA 8 shots or those peacekeepers and getting those one-hit KOs. And sometimes it's not fun because you don't have a gun, people are shooting at you, and there's no way your butt is getting out of line of sight. However, they are focused on this and they actually address the problem. I'm not going to get into it because it seems a little complicated, but they're essentially saying that one server was kind of overworking as far as some of the other machines that were doing the same job, and they need to work backwards to figure out the root of it. It's a very extreme high priority for them, and something they're going to keep us posted on. This is a good issue. I know a lot of people have been having problems with that. They also mentioned that the audio issues are currently testing some potential fixes, and those performances that have been reported will be addressed. This is a very minor thing, but I know there have been some audio complaints, and so it's good that they've acknowledged that. One of the big hit points and two really big hit points that we'll talk about back to back are cheaters and hitbox registration, and hits, basically phantom bullets going through, not being registered for players' hit models. We'll talk about that, but first let's talk about cheaters. They've been saying that they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. This is something that they're going to be secretive about to avoid telegraphing our moves to cheaters, but we'll be sharing more on the progress made next week. Now, this is one of the hardest things for audiences to really appreciate, because we've dealt with cheaters a lot in Paladins because it's a shooter, and this is a really just hard thing, because when someone's cheating, they figured out a way to kind of game your system. So you need to then change your system, or at least catch how they're gaming it to be able to stop it, and of course catch them in the act, or at least make sure no one can do it again. But if you broadcast how you're doing that, then cheaters then know your system and then can make a fix to try to counteract what you're counteracting for them. Essentially, you tell them your plan, they'll change their plan so that they don't get caught anymore. This is a big deal, and it makes it seem like, whoa, you're not telling us cheaters are getting banned. Even though it's happening, it has to be a silent process, so please bear with them on that. I know it can be difficult if you don't know this process, but it is very hard, and it's something that you rarely ever get the credit you want, because if you do, then you have to telegraph something that will essentially ruin your efforts in the first place. The hit registration stuff is something that we all know. We've been playing, and we shoot a bullet, doesn't hit. We shoot Pathfinder, it feels like it should hit him, and it doesn't. They're adding engine features actually to help track down and report instances of incorrect hit registration in their playtest, and then they're going to force the bug and reproduce the issue consistently. If you haven't done this, how bugs are found, you see that issue and you try to repro it. It means see if you can make it happen again and again and again. If you can, then you know the situation it occurs, then you can look at that code, you can change it, and then you can hopefully find the fix. That's really how people try to solve bugs. That's what they're trying to do. Well, they've made some progress with some fixes locally. More work needs to be done to address the root of the problem, so that's probably a deep one. It's probably in the source code, and that is something that, as you all might assume, is a little bit more challenging, will take some more time. Over the next few weeks, they're going to talk more about what's being done in those areas and provide updates in future patches. They know that in addition to addressing the issues with the game, everyone's hungry for new content, and here's the big one, guys: content. The studio culture they've worked hard to cultivate, and the health of their team is really paramount. They say that they take those things into basically, consideration when they're discussing their content roadmap, their production schedule, and the frequency. They want to make sure Apex is alive and thriving, but they need a team to be alive and thriving to be able to do that as well. And they want to really focus on quality over speed of release. Now, I've done this as a YouTuber. It's really easy to try to go daily. It's really easy to try to do just everything and try to get that watch time. But honestly, the biggest bang for buck I've found, and the biggest bang for buck that I think they're realizing, is when you're healthy, when you're living a good life, when you're having experiences and you're putting out good quality, that eventually wins over rushed out, consistent quality that keeps degrading in value over time. This is a better way for this game to maintain long term, and if you're worried about getting it now, you're really not worried about the long term. This is the best long term plan, no doubt about it. That's like saying, no, I want $100,000 now versus I want $10,000 every month for the rest of my life. We all know $100K now is nice, but if the $10K every month is a better long term plan, because it just keeps on coming. So that's going to be what they try to go to, and I really appreciate that development culture. They share their high level roadmap, but today they're actually talking about their seasonal approach to live and basically the clarity for that cadence. Now, we only have a few more minutes wrapping up this video, and so let me know what you guys' thoughts on some of this stuff in the beginning. Have you kind of had your mind changed? Have you thought differently about things? What did you think personally about this post, and what are you thinking about the future of the game? Do you feel really good about it? Because really, content is one of the biggest things I've seen people ask for, and a lot of these fixes they've mentioned. Basically, what they've told us officially is that at the beginning of each season, and there should be, I think, 4 coming up, or at least 4 this year, they will bring a new battle pass, a new legend, something new for the meta, and more. So something else a little more, but you can guarantee new legend, new battle pass, and something new for the meta, whether that's a weapon, whether that's a hop-up, whether that's a whatever. That is going to be coming. I'm very excited about that. Then, as the season progresses, they'll do little changes like we saw Gibraltar and Costa get that 10% and some buffs to some of their abilities. We saw the Pathfinder hitbox change, which ended up buffing him a little bit. We saw the Peacekeeper and the Wingman nerf. All these things will happen mid-season, but they won't be these huge things like, oh, you just got a legend, and a week later, here's another legend. That's not what they're going to be doing, and I'm glad that they're making that clear so everyone can get their expectations on point. They believe strongly in the importance of large, meaningful changes to the game that have a lasting impact, thus focusing on seasonal release cadence they laid out, launch, and will continue in the future. Now, here's the biggest thing, and this is the thing I want to close the video on because I think it's really, really important. They say that the biggest thing they want is to improve their communication. And this is one of my biggest points in my future of Apex Legends. They need to provide more visibility into the future of the game. It doesn't mean that they need to put more content out, but if they're waiting, they need to tell us. That way we all can, I think, rest assured that they're doing what we hope they're doing. That way, you know, in a relationship, you can know that this person is going to be coming home later that night, is going to want to go out on that date with you, is going to want to spend time or maybe take the next step, instead of just trying to guess and hope that that's the case and feeling a little hesitant because you haven't got the confirmation. Hopefully, this allows for more transparency on future updates and less surprise drops. Here's the big thing too, they have officially announced that at EA Play in June, they're giving us the first details of Season 2. We're going to see a new battle pass, the new legend, which we can assume at this point is Watson, and a debut of a new weapon, which a lot of people expect to be the L-Star. And also, they say you didn't expect Kings Canyon to stay the same forever, did you? Which means they hopefully are changing the map in some way. This could mean that Market turns into a freaking bazaar and, you know, gets a little hut and that's it. It could also mean that a whole level of the map is completely different, leveled off, or maybe something like an event happens and there's a certain like aspect to it that now changes the way you play. I love the idea of changing little parts of a map and not the complete map because I think it adds a story, it adds a twist, and it really makes it feel alive, and I think Fortnite did set a great example at doing that. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope you guys are too. Let me know what you would expect and what you hope for them to do. Lastly, again, they mentioned that they're not doing anything with Titanfall 3 yet, they're focusing on Apex Legends, and they're not doing anything with Star Wars. I think this is extremely important. For me, I want to give my final thoughts just to close out this video because I think at the end of the day, I saw people also having these incredible expectations for this game, but really, I think this game has really done a great job. I mean, it's one of the most fun games. I logged on today after not playing for about 4 days, except a little bit at that event, and I had a blast. You guys are watching the gameplay I just played. I think it is so great. I mean, people complained about Endgame and Game of Thrones, and some of the best film and television things we've ever seen. So what kind of a life are you living to where that is something that you're complaining about? That's not good enough for you. That's some of the best media that you're gonna get. So if that's not fulfilling you, I understand, but maybe that means that media is not fulfilling you. Maybe that means you need to find other things in your life that are fulfilling you so you can give less pressure to this game and enjoy it for what it is, which is a great battle royale, and honestly is going to be getting long-term support. Overall, I think viewerships boom, players boom when new patches, and people still have a thirst for updates, and that to me is the biggest sign that this game is still in a great spot and is going positive directions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed my thoughts on it. I wanted to be honest, transparent, and obviously give you everything I'm thinking and go over it in depth, so hopefully that was accomplished. As always, my friends, leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you like what I did. Let me know if there's anything you think I could improve, and as always, never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.